Aloha, everybody, and thank you for being with us. This is a very, very first time for all of us on Oahu to kind of have a Zoom account that we can offer to folks for this kind of session. And there have been some questions about sort of the community of people who have been invited to watch this, and because of lists and because of sharing of lists, and because we wanted to keep within the four groups, we communicated the emails that had the links to these Zooms only to the candidates and to those who are designated voters for CD1, in this case, pledged to Bernie Sanders. So others have asked to see what the candidates say, and that's when we made the decision that we would record this, and that with your approval, then send it on to the two leaders of the two campaigns, that would be Bart Dame and Tyler Dos Santos Tam, to post on Facebook and other places. You certainly are welcome to do that as well, but the link will go to them initially, because actually this and the profiles is not something that the Democratic Party of Hawaii is doing, but it is a joint project that was initiated by Bart and Tyler to kind of give face and voice to people who are the candidates, so that the voters can actually have a chance to see you. All of this is because we are not having an in-person convention this year. And at the in-person conventions, there were opportunities to shake hands and give hugs and pass out flyers and to say, hey, I'm a candidate running, would you vote for me? And that just was not available this year. So that's when we came up with this idea, because basically the lists are just a list of names, and we wanted to put faces and stories into these names. So it's all optional. It's all an opportunity. Some candidates have taken this opportunity to be here and to put themselves in the profiles. And for a lot of people, it's helped. I just want you to know that we were going to schedule this yesterday, but we found out about the Black Lives Matter protests, and we decided that, no, we just didn't want to do that. So it is a little late in the whole voting game, I realize, but we just couldn't interfere with that protest. So so right now, I'm just gonna go ahead and start, and you all can have 2 to 3 minutes. And I think, Aaron, if you would kindly give them the, 30-minute, just 30-second warning, be a little liberal with it, because we have lots of time. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Our first speaker is John Bickle, who is pledged to Bernie Sanders.
Aloha. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Bart, for helping with this. Thank you, Aaron. I am John Bickle. I'm running to be a delegate for the National Convention for this guy, Bernie Sanders. I'd like to start with a quote from Bernie Sanders. He said, "I'm asking people to be a part of a movement, a political revolution, to transform our country economically, politically, socially, and environmentally. Well, I've been fighting for a revolution since I was in high school. I got active in politics in the 1970s. I was angry at the Nixon administration. I came out for progressive candidates already when I was in my teens. I went to the College of William and Mary in UC Berkeley, where I carried on my political activities, including being at UC Berkeley. I acted in civil disobedience against the university in order to protest their investments in South Africa. I came to Hawaii in 1986 to work for State Representative Tom Okamura. I had the privilege in the summer of 1986 of being press secretary to Patsy Mink when she ran for governor. And Patsy was a strong progressive voice from the state, and I'm proud to continue her legacy. I've been active since in Rainbow Coalition, Democratic Socialists of America, Progressive Democrats, and more recently, Our Revolution. I've been a teacher in the state of Hawaii since 1988 at James Campbell High School, Roosevelt High School, Chaminade University, HBU, Iolani School. I've worked for Honolulu Magazine as a writer. I've been active in many caucuses, the education, environmental, LGBT, and I currently represent the Women's Caucus on the State Central Committee of the Democratic Party. I've also been active a lot in an issue committee, particularly the Democratic Party Health Committee. I'm a strong supporter of single-payer health care. I'm also very proud of being president of Americans for Democratic Action, Hawaii. As a local president, I've been active in testimony. I've submitted over 50 pieces of testimony to this legislature on everything from healthcare, education, criminal justice reform, environmental protection, campaign finance reform. This summer, just to give you an example of what I'm doing for ADA as the local president, we have 4 interns. One of them is working on the Red Hill issue to try and spur the Navy to do something just about the leakages at Red Hill. Second is an intern who's working on single-payer health care to try and at least get all payer for the state of Hawaii to move on to single payer. In the state of Hawaii, if we can't move the national to do it, we're going to try and do it locally. I have an intern who's working on economic justice issues, looking particularly at what ways we can reform our tax structure to make it more progressive. Equal pay, one person working on equal pay. I was a delegate to the Democratic National Convention in 2012 and 2016. So what does it mean to be a delegate? It means that you vote for the nominee. It means that you vote for the platform. You vote for the rules, and if you're not actually an actual convention, you network. And a candidate look at for August of 18th, but also beyond. Look for revolution. Look for people who are young. Look for people committed. Look for people who are willing to fight. And despite the COVID virus, we shall fight on. Despite racism, we shall fight on. Despite Joe Biden being the nominee, we shall fight on. As a candidate to support Sanders in 2020, I think back to the 1980 convention. Let me just finish with this quote, please. Ted Kennedy, at the end of the convention, which he lost to establishment Carter, said, "And someday, long after this convention, long after the signs come down and the crowd stop cheering and the band stop playing, may it be said of our campaign that we kept the faith. May it be said of our party in 1980 that we found our faith again. For me, a few hours ago, this campaign came to an end. For all those whose cares have been our concern, the work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die." Thank you.
Woo. Thank you. Our next speaker is candidate is Gloria Imiloa Borland. Aloha.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Imiloa Borland. I'm 18 years old. I just graduated from Punahou like last week. I'm running because I want to represent the youth voice. I do not know a single person my age who genuinely likes Joe Biden. And I don't think that's right for a party with such a huge platform to just basically tell an entire group of people that you should just compromise every election. I don't think that's how democracy should work. If the candidate that's winning doesn't actually genuinely excite people, then why are they winning? So I want to run to represent youth voices because, you know, our voices matter. I organized March for Our Lives my sophomore year. I started a campaign to lower our state's voting age my junior year. And I keep going to protests and I keep speaking up for people like me because who else is going to speak up for us? Thank you.
Thank you, Imi. William Russell Karan. Will.
Hello, everyone. My name is Will Carone. I was born in 1989 here on Oahu. I'm a millennial. I attended Iolani School. Mr. Bickle was my teacher for 2 of my years in high school. And then I attended University of Hawaii, Manoa after that. I was the editor-in-chief of the Kaleo o Hawaii newspaper for 2 years and was a freelance journalist for 5 or 6 years after that, mostly writing for the Hawaii Independent, covering politics and government. Through that work, I got to know a lot of the activists and organizers that are working on progressive policy issues here in the state. I got to see a lot about how the legislature works and how it doesn't work. And I got to understand a little bit about how change can happen through community organizing. I always considered myself to be a civic-minded person. I voted as soon as I was able to and have voted in every election. But I think I realized that at a certain point that just voting when the choices are basically two sides of the same coin wasn't going to be enough to make actual change happen. And again, I came back to that community organizing component, so important of building power and bringing candidates who actually represent our values into the fore so that people have a chance to vote for them. And just in time for that realization, a senator from Vermont named Bernie Sanders came along in 2016. And I was totally blown away by his recognition of that critical element of the community organizing element as being so important. And then, you know, shortly thereafter, the realization was confirmed. I believe truly that one of the key reasons Donald Trump and his white supremacist campaign was able to succeed in 2016 is because we didn't have that community organizing structure built in a robust enough fashion. We've had it in the past, but it's been allowed to degrade and erode over time. And that lack of being able to bring people together in a way to build power, I think, is what allowed him to win that victory. I've continued my organizing work through Young Progressives Demanding Action, where we've advocated for progressive legislation at the Capitol, environmental justice, social justice, a living wage. And as chair of the Democratic Party, chair of the 20th House District for the Democratic Party, I have continued with that spirit of community organizing, and I hope to represent all of you at the National Convention. Thanks.
Thank you, Will. Next is Jacob Gerald Christie. Jacob, hi. Aloha.
Aloha. My name is Jacob Christie. I moved to Oahu a year ago, almost, from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, to attend graduate school at UH. This island has showed me much aloha, and it's truly been an honor to be able to spend the last year in such a beautiful place. For most of my life, before I came here for the 2016 election, I was completely disillusioned with politics. I attended many Occupy rallies, including one in New York City in 2012, and I saw much hostility in the country for the simple message of we're all in this together and we all deserve a piece of the pie. It seemed like nobody in power was listening or cared. Hardly anything ever got done, and the country was steadily moving to the right. So I was incredibly surprised in 2015 to hear Bernie argue for the kind of large-scale change that I wanted. Healthcare is a human right, a massive redistribution of wealth, curbing military spending, and demilitarizing the police. For the first time in my life, I was volunteering. I phone banked for countless hours throughout the campaign because I honestly couldn't think of any better way to spend my time. This, along with door knocking for Bernie, is a habit that I proudly continued this year in Oahu. I was eventually elected to be a national delegate pledged to Bernie Sanders in 2016 from Minnesota. I spent my time at the convention debating Hillary delegates on issues and protesting what was clearly a rigged primary process. Some of us wore this shirt in solidarity on the voting day. Enough is enough. So it's important for our minority voices to not be drowned out at the National Convention and in the DNC. Philadelphia in 2016 was painful to experience, honestly. The party establishment tried its damnedest to drown out any voices of dissent, and this is going to happen to some extent this year. So it's important to be respectful, but unapologetic. So this is why I implore all of you to vote for national delegate candidates that will be outspoken, both to tell the party that we aren't going away and to put pressure on Biden to move his platform leftward. The need for that leftward swing is more blatant than ever considering the current state of the US. A far-right authoritarian in the White House, a viral pandemic disproportionately affecting our most vulnerable, and my home city in turmoil after the blatant murder of George Floyd by the MPD. I'm actually getting on a plane to Minneapolis later today to visit my family. One of the first things I'll do is leave some flowers on 38th in Chicago. I humbly ask for your vote so that our voices can be heard in physical or virtual Madison. Mahalo for your time.
Hello. Is Rena Hindman here? Rena? She's also a candidate. Our next candidate is Elizabeth Liz Holmes. Aloha, Liz.
Aloha. The reason why I support Bernie is he has a long history for fighting for civil rights and social equality. It goes back to the 60s, and I've seen films on TV, and also he was a student leader while he was in college for Congress of Racial Equality, also known as CORE. And he was arrested for protesting institutional segregation. Now, I'm old enough to have been around in the 60s, so I remember the segregation, especially because my grandparents are from the South and when we visited them in Alabama. Also in 1963, he went to the March on Washington to witness Martin Luther King's speech, "I Have a Dream." He has received a 100% score for the NAACP for civil rights record. Also, he's committed to ending racial disparity, and he understands that slavery, segregation, Jim Crow laws, predatory lending, redlining, and other factors lead to racial economic disparity. In education, he wants public college free for all, also trade schools. And that's something that's important because I have a lot of friends who are my age who are still paying off those college loans that the interest keeps growing. And it was really between having a house and college, and they pick college and they're still paying at it, and it's like doubled. And the amounts that they thought they were going to get, and these are some professionals, one's a lawyer, some people with master's or doctorate degrees. It doesn't always mean that you're going to have those green pastures, and it's all different races and religion. Also, his stance on crime, the US highest prison population in the developed world, with a disproportionate number of Black inmates behind bars. And he feels the criminal justice system is broken, as we know from these last couple of weeks of the protests, witnessing it on film. We're actually seeing it a lot of times because of Facebook and the way things are now. I have seen a change in my lifetime. We demand justice when a lot of times they're not, by what we view. Inequality, income inequality, and the racial wealth gap. Black youth unemployment is 51% higher than other demographics. So he is for the Green Deal for employment for all. And also, basically, I was a national delegate in the 1988 Jesse Jackson, which I'm sorry, I'm reading his thing. Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Okay, Charlie Ice is up next. Aloha, Charlie.
Yes. Okay, am I on now? Thanks very much. I'm Charlie Ice from Waimalu in Aiea. Good morning to all of you. I'm so happy to see you all today. I miss you. A special thanks to you, Lorna, for putting this all together. You make me think of your mom a little bit. A wonderful, amazing woman. And I want to thank all the rest of you for your serious interest. It means a lot to me. As you know, I don't have to tell you, the country's in a state of emergency right now, and it leaves a knot in my stomach. But when I look around this room, so to speak, and when I look around the country, all of the the progressive movements, whether they're white, black, brown, yellow, green, they are all singing the same tune. We have been working at this for a long time. So even though we have a minority rule that has taken a while to get here, all of us majority people have really taken a hold of this and made some transformations in our society. Most of the country favors our agenda, whether it's police reform, carceral reform, economic reform, healthcare, voter reform, and reversing climate change. We are the majority and we need to make that work. Establishment Democrats are still in the thrall of the corporate agenda, so it's time that we remade our politics. And this is where we as progressives come in. We have to hold their feet to the fire yesterday at the convention and in the future. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to happen soon. The agenda is very long, but we build the road as we travel. We proceed with malice toward none and with charity for all in pursuit of America's founding dream, equal opportunity for all and equal justice under the law. I have spent a lifetime as a public servant of the public trust, working to make government work. I'm trained as a mediator and a facilitator. I worked as a soccer referee at the highest levels, which can be very challenging, as you can imagine. These call for a number of qualities: empathy, strategy, diplomacy, moxie. And I have a wide background from biology and geology to political science and economics. I know that there are more questions than there are answers, but this is our life now and I'm committed to it, and I'll appreciate your support. Mahalo.
Okay, mahalo, Charlie. Aloha, Laura Cam.
Aloha all. My name is Laura Cam and I'm running to be a Bernie Sanders delegate to the National Convention. First off, I'd like to acknowledge that the Democratic Party has a responsibility and an obligation to end all forms of discrimination, violence, and systemic racism. I firmly believe that Bernie Sanders is the best candidate to support systems change and build a more equitable United States of America. I believe that Bernie Sanders' platform and campaign keeps issues important to Americans and members of the Democratic Party at the forefront of the party agenda. Issues like expanding Social Security, averting the most catastrophic effects of climate change, ensuring that students are able to graduate and access a college education without debt, and universal health care. As a family member of a person with a chronic illness who has been unable to work, I've seen firsthand how valuable Hawaii's Quest program is. Healthcare is a human right, and the United States should join every major country in guaranteeing healthcare for all people through Medicare for All single-payer program. By way of background, I'm a resident of Manoa, and I grew up in East Honolulu in Ainahaina. I'm vice president of the Metropolitan Club of Honolulu's Rotaract, a member of Faith Action for Community Equity, and completed AmeriCorps Vista in Hawaii. I've also volunteered with Amnesty International and Hanauma Bay Nature Preserve. Professionally, I'm a program coordinator with Hawaii Green Growth, a local 2030 hub, which is a public, private, and civil society network that works to build sustainability and resilience in Hawaii and share these models across islands globally. Islands are at the forefront of climate change, and my work has enforced to me that time is running out to take action. We can't have more of the same, no more of the same status quo. The Green New Deal needs to be a cornerstone of the Democratic Party agenda. I humbly submit my candidacy to you as a Bernie Sanders delegate to the National Convention, and I commit to voting with Bernie Sanders to help build a more resilient, sustainable, and equitable future for all. Mahalo for your consideration.
Thank you, Laura. Is Noel Kent here? Noel Kent. He's another delegate. And Penny Lynn Brianna Lucas Kawata. Is Penny Lynn here? No? Then Jennifer Lum. Jen Lum is here. Aloha, Jen.
Hello. So I am a kind of a late bloomer, even though I've been doing this for a really long time. I grew up, actually I was born the same year as Earth Day, And so Earth Day has always been brought to my attention, and I knew that climate change was real way back when. So it's really baffling to me that people never listened. I was raised in a Democratic family, even though I'm a military brat. My mom was a hippie and my dad was a military man. I moved here in 1988 because my dad got stationed here. I voted for Al Gore my first election in 1988 as soon as I turned 18, and I voted for him 3 more times even though he wasn't running for president. That's how much I believe in climate change. I also have been a big proponent of healthcare. Being a military brat, I was afforded the fact that I got free healthcare all the way up until I was 23 years old. So I don't understand how that's not a system that should be set everywhere. I went on a trip to Korea, I got a headache, and I was able to walk into a little pharmacy at their mall, and they gave me headache medication because that's what they do. Like I didn't have to pay for it. They just gave it to me. I had a headache, they took care of it. Leadership abilities, I am a teacher at Pearl City High School. I teach digital media and art. I've taught Algebra 1 and special education also. I was on the board for Kalihi Palama Health Center, where my focus was on preventative healthcare. I got to go to Washington, D.C. and argue with Patsy Mink about Social Security. So that was really cool. I also was on the board for American Institute of Graphic Artists on their education board. I also was, I am a member of Wolfpack, trying to get money out of politics. I am, I guess, a founder of one of the co-founders of Medicare for All Hawaii. And I've worked on all kinds of different campaigns. And I took notice of Bernie Sanders in 2012 because I'm a Facebook addict and people started posting things on the internet. And I was like, who is this man speaking the thoughts in my head? And why is he not more important? So starting from that moment, I started like researching, and I have been a huge supporter for at least 8 years, and worked on his last campaign a little bit, much more this time. So thank you very much. I hope that you think of me when you vote, and I'd be proud to represent you guys.
Mahalo. Joshua Oswega? Did I do that not right?
Josue, yeah, Joshua Osegeda.
Osegeda. Osegeda. Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha. Hello, everyone. My name is Josue Osegeda, also known as Joshua. I'm humbled and honored for the opportunity to earn your vote to become a Bernie Sanders national delegate for Hawaii's Congressional District 1. So I like to start this introduction by asking a simple question. So has the United States of America truly fulfilled the values of liberty and justice for all? And to this point in American history, who has truly benefited from the promises of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness? I believe in the Bernie Sanders Not Me, Us campaign and the progressive movement. The issues of racial, social, economic, and environmental justice that Bernie Sanders has elevated at a national level will be the catalyst for Hawaii and across the United States to finally uphold the promises and principles our country was built upon. So for me, this is personal. As a first-generation Latino college graduate who's a proud alumnus of UCLA and the University of Michigan, I understand firsthand some of the challenges and experiences that young people from historically marginalized communities must overcome to break the cycle of poverty and obtain a higher education. I've devoted my career to public service and uplifting outcomes and opportunities for some of our most at-risk children and families all across the nation. I've lived in San Francisco and Los Angeles, Michigan, Boston, and Hawaii. Currently, I work in the field of juvenile justice, working with community leaders and public agencies to develop and evaluate programs for youth and families across the islands. And I've also worked in local, state, and national nonprofit organizations, in state government, in public schools, and institutions of higher ed. And it's no coincidence that the communities I've lived and served in experience the same interpersonal and structural issues of inequity and inequality. And I believe we must transform the functions of government at all levels of government to improve the economic and social realities of the working people of Hawaii and the United States. And as National Congressional Delegate for Bernie Sanders, I will advocate for progressive, intersectional policies and advocate for structural reform as a platform for the Democratic Party. And I will affirm the principles of equity and justice for the people of Hawaii and the United States of America. Mahalo, and I thank you for your vote.
Mahalo. Is Lynn Pyle here? Did she check in? Lynn Pyle. Okay, Philip Eric Schrager. Aloha, Eric.
Hey, aloha everyone. How's it going? Great to see everyone. Yeah, this is an odd situation that I find myself in. I've never really been in anything like this. I've never run for anything before, so I apologize if I come off as not as nearly as professional or profound as many of you already have sounded to me. So it's really great to see you all. I really consider us to be a family of progressives here in Hawaii. I'll give you a little bit of a background on my political experience. It's very short relative to many of you. As Bernie says, you know, it's not me, it's us, right? And so when I wrote my email and sent it out to all the people on that list, I realized that I feel that with you, not just the people that I've already met, but it's delightful to see people that I haven't met yet that are strongly in the progressive camp and supporters of Bernie Sanders. Like I said, you know, whether or not it's Bernie, that doesn't matter. What matters is what Bernie stands for, and I don't need to go through the platform items with you. You guys get it. We all get it. But just to give you a little background on me, I was in the Navy for a long time, 30 years. Got the dream orders here in Hawaii back in 2008, and I've been here ever since, never gonna leave. Raised a family here, and I live out in Eva Beach with my wife and 2 kids. I have a second career now. When I was in the Navy, I was an intelligence officer, doing that whole thing. But I went back to school on the GI Bill, and now I'm a marriage and family therapist together with my wife. We have a private practice. I think what's interesting, particularly about my experience in the military, is how socialistic in many ways the life in the military is. You know, Jen can certainly attest to this as well, or any of you all that have served. Many of the things that we want as progressives are already provided to service members in the military, be it, you know, education opportunities, free healthcare. I mean, you get clothes, you get food, you get I mean, it's a very, it is very socialistic when you think about it. So when I heard Bernie Sanders speaking for the first time, you know, back in 2015, I was like, okay, well, this is the first time I've heard a candidate that is saying the things that I think are right. You know, the things that are fair for everybody in the United States. So it really resonated with me, and I was activated, you know, radicalized, I guess you could say, in some respects, and started down this path. You know, my family and I, we worked for Bernie in 2016, met a whole new family, our revolution back then, with Will and June and John and Bart, Christina, Aaron, Natalia, Mishka. I mean, all these people, all of a sudden I had this huge part of my life that I never had before then, you know? So it was really a wonderful experience. Sadly, Bernie didn't prevail then. But the bigger story is that it changed my life. And here I am with all of you wonderful people, and we're fighting, right? We're here, we're doing the work. So after that, I kind of switched my efforts to look at what I think is really the biggest problem with our system right now. It's the foundation of all other problems, I think. And that is the corrupting influence of money in our political system. So Wolfpack, Jen already mentioned before, an amazing group of volunteers. We've been fighting for years to get Hawaii to sign up with 5 other states that have already come on board to support a resolution to get money out of politics through an amendment to the Constitution, which will make it enduring and not just a law that can be changed with an incoming administration, be it red or blue or whoever. So that really has been my main focus, as many of you already know. In the course of that, you know, my wife and I, and really my whole family, we decided to lean in and to find out what the Democratic Party in Hawaii is doing, what it's all about. I somehow got elected as district chair out here in 41 with Lorna and Bart as one of my main mentors, I could say, out here. Went through the whole process this year, filling all the holes for, you know, the state delegates, and at the same time, learning some things within the Democratic Party of Hawaii that, you know, personally I feel need to change and need to shift more to the progressive side. So I'm sure many of you agree with me that there's a lot of work that we still need to do here in Hawaii to push those progressive agenda items locally. The last thing I want to say is that this isn't over, okay? I know maybe I sound kind of Pollyanna-ish that, you know, that maybe Bernie can still get the nomination. Bernie can still get the nomination. It's a long time between now and November. Who the hell knows what's going to happen, right? I personally feel that Biden is not the best candidate to represent progressive values. And whether he's the nominee or somebody else is, one of us is going to be there to represent CD1 for Bernie. And I couldn't be prouder of being a part of this team. And this is really just the beginning. So thank you so much. And I look forward to getting to know many of you better in the future.
Mahalo. Mahalo, Eric. Okay, Claire Aiko Shimabukuro. You have to unmute the button. Maybe Rich, would you like to work with her on this, and then we'll go on to Jun?
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Oh, no. Yeah, you did it. Yay.
That's how
Okay,
adept I am.
Claire.
Unlike Ian, our last candidate, the only reason, because I have absolutely no experience in Democratic Party or any electoral politics in Hawaii, the only reason that I am a candidate is because I support Bernie Sanders. Now that said, I'll talk a little bit about my background. I'm actually probably one of the oldest here. I'm a year older than Bart Dame, who is my comrade in arms in this race. I was born in 1952 at Queens Hospital, and I was educated at both public and private schools in Hawaii, starting with Waianae Elementary, and then to Halava Elementary, which was the elementary school in the largest public housing in which we lived, and then St. Andrew's Priory, an all-women's private school. My mother was Patsy Mink's very first campaign manager, and so I had to endure all of the old boys in the Democratic Party calling them up and threatening my mom and Patsy, and having watched them sit at home and cry. But on the other hand, my aunt and uncle were very, very active in the civil rights movement in the 60s, and a family friend, A.Q. McElrath, was as well. They registered voters, and they endured a lot of very, very scary times. My experience has been in my early youth, high school era, and to my relatively young adulthood, I spent the entire time being a political activist, advocating and marching against the Vietnam War, being one of the very first organizers of the very first land and housing and sovereignty struggle in Kalama Valley and on through. And I've lived in Chicago and witnessed and advocated against and demonstrated and been hit on the head police brutality, particularly against African American, people of color, and others who oppose this system. One of the reasons I'm supporting Bernie is the fact that, like a lot of us in those days, he chained himself to buildings, he advocated, but unlike a lot of us and a lot of people who just became ideological proponents of the horrors of the system, Bernie found a way to build a mass movement. And a mass movement is the most important thing to do if one wants to win, because otherwise it becomes just rhetoric. I've spent 10 years in corporate America as a manager, living in San Francisco, LA, and here. And I've observed how corporate America cares more about their shareholders than their people. And I've also been the executive director of Hawaii Meals on Wheels for the last 12 years. I'm now retired. So, and I also serve on the City and County Committee on Aging in Honolulu. So I understand that besides young people, seniors have a stake in supporting Bernie because he knows expand the Older Americans Act, expand Medicare for all, make sure that seniors do not lose their corporate pensions. And I could go on, but I see the stop sign coming up. So again, thank you for letting me be part of this. And again, mass movement, together we'll win. And one last thing, I have to say this, one last thing, sorry. One of the elephants in the room, and I need to speak to this because a lot of people don't, is Bernie is also courageous. And when he talked about education in the nation of Cuba, I thought that was extremely interesting because I have been to Cuba twice on peace missions, and I have seen firsthand their healthcare system, which is actually leading the world in countering this pandemic. And so the fact that he has put himself up front and said, this is what I stand for, this is I support, it's very, very important for the position of the United States in the world. Okay, thanks.
Mahalo, Claire. Aloha, Junshin.
Hello, Lorna. Aloha, everyone. My name is Jun Shin. I am 20 years old. I am a junior at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I am running to be a delegate pledged to support Senator Bernie Sanders in the 1st Congressional District. Bernie inspired me in 2016. I was a high schooler, so I didn't have the chance to vote for him that time around, but he inspired me so much that I got involved in local politics. From supporting progressive candidates to working on issue campaigns at the state capitol, I've done my best to make the political revolution a reality here in Hawaii. In 2020, I was proud to both vote and volunteer for this man who has fought for justice his whole life and the movement that grew from his campaign. I'm running to be a national delegate because the senator may not be the Democratic nominee. And as sad as I am, and it's okay to be sad, mourn but organize, as they say, it's not me, us. And there is still a lot of work for us to get done as a movement and as delegates to the National Convention. And if you elect me, I'm ready to learn, put in the work necessary to help the Bernie campaign, even if it's just using my vote, to leverage its gains for social, economic, and environmental justice at the Democratic National Convention and beyond. My name is Jun Shin. I am running for a delegate to the National Convention, and I'm ready to keep the fight going. Thank you very much.
Mahalo, Jun. That's wonderful. Mishka Khalil Suva. What a wonderful name. Aloha.
Aloha, mahalo for that. Let me just start off by saying Black Lives Matter. I was super, super excited to be part of the protest yesterday. So many people coming out, and it's just a great, beautiful thing to see people standing up because that's what our movement is all about. We've already seen that protesting works when millions of us stand up. We've seen the 4 officers who were responsible for George Floyd's death. They have been fired, they've been charged with crimes. Universities and schools are already divesting from police departments. We're seeing Confederate monuments removed And just today, Minneapolis City Council member Jeremiah Ellison said he's going to commit to dismantling the Minneapolis Police Department. So that is so awesome. That is the power of the grassroots, and that's what I'm all about. And you know, that's what we got to focus on when we go to convention, because you know, one of our big planks is going to have to be defunding the police. I think we have over-policed Black and brown people to a terrible degree, and we need to remember what Bernie told us. You know, we need to invest in jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. We need to move that money away from the police department and incarcerating people of color. So whoever becomes our delegates, please, I encourage you to commit to doing that. Like we all said, it's not me, us, and we need to fight for each other. Now a little bit about myself, if I could be so self-centered. My name is Mishka Silva, and I'm a former teacher. I'm a part-time organizer. I've worked on campaigns like Kanyela Ings. I'm working now with Kim Coco. She's running for District 26. We'd love your help if you believe in these progressive values that, you know, Bernie upholds. You know, I'm a part-time organizer, a member of the Democratic Socialists of Honolulu, member of HGEA. I'm a public worker, work in the DOE. So, you know, I've been doing everything I can as an organizer for the past year, and it's really been over a year. Held over 30 events for Bernie, a lot of them phone banks. We made 10,000 calls to the continent, thank you. And we've hosted everything from Bernie barbecues, plan to win parties, everything that, you know, the campaign put out, anything that we could do, I was there. And, you know, I think that's what this whole thing is about. It is about, you know, bettering. It's about the grassroots coming up. When millions of us stand up and take action, change is possible. And that's what we're seeing across the country now. And, you know, as a millennial, 32 years old, it was, you know, a big deal to me, this campaign. Lifetime renter. Okay, just one second, sorry. You know, lifetime renter. I would love a living wage at some point as a public worker. And, you know, but I know it's not me, us, it's for all of us. It's for all the people I talked to through this campaign. And we got to move it forward, build that solidarity, and win across the country. And if anybody's interested, here's a link to some of our fun events that we had across this past year.
Thank you, Mishka. Mahalo. Nicely done. Dean Tsutsumu Uehara, is he here? Dean? And William Uspal, is he here? Well, that's the last of the list, and you guys were amazing, fabulous and amazing. Aaron and Rich Halverson are going to put this now on YouTube, and we'll make it available to Bart to distribute to everyone. And I just want to thank the team from District 17 who tried to put this all together. It's the first time we've ever done anything. It's Karen Degner, Rich Halverson, and Aaron Ishgar, and Joe Francher from the Oahu Democrats who brought us the Zoom account. I'd also like to thank Win Vong, who did the candidates' profiles, and Lynn Hiokomoto, who helped with the communications to everybody. And of course, Tyler Dos Santos Tem and Bart Dame for initiating this whole process. I have to say, this really touched my heart that you guys are beautiful and really wonderful. You truly, and I believe that this experience, which I didn't even see as a possibility, has helped create a real sense of ohana between you. And no matter who wins, I think that you'll all know that you've got all of their backs. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful thing that we were able to share this. I feel very privileged that I was able to listen to you. And I hope that Bart is able to spread this to all kinds of folks so that they can see you as well. I think that this can be used by Bart and by the Bernie supporters as certainly a call to leadership by you all to your constituency. And I really thank you for taking part. It was really illuminating for me. John Bickle and I have worked, as you know, on the presidential primary, and that's why we initiated this together, to work together on this. And John, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about where the delegate selection goes from here.
Sure. As you know, we're all running for one slot of male, one slot of female for the 1st Congressional District of the district level delegates. If you succeed in that, then congratulations. If you do not, I hope that you've also applied to be an at-large delegate. The Bernie campaign has 3 at-large delegates. One of those will be a PLEO delegate, which is a party elected official delegate, which I don't think any of you are eligible for. You have to be either a high-level party officer or an elected official in state or national government to be able to get that. But you still have a chance at the other 2 delegates, which will be, and I'm looking across this panorama of pictures, I see we have a lot of potentially eligible people. The at-large are affirmative action delegates trying to balance. We have certain targets for the Democratic Party, and we want, particularly 8, by the way, 8 young under the age of 35 delegates, and I see a lot of you are under the age of 35. So I hopefully you've applied and you have a shot at getting one of those on the Central Committee, which meets on June 13th. June 13th, they will decide the at-large and PLEO delegates. And then from there, of course, we'll have a delegation. Shortly after that, the delegation will meet, those who are chosen to be delegates to the National Convention, to choose the chair of the delegation, which, by the way, traditionally goes to the governor, but who knows. And we'll also choose probably things like pages for the convention. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in Milwaukee or out of Milwaukee, or whether it's going to be partially or totally online. That is yet to be decided. But that's kind of basically where we go from there, unless people have more questions. No? Great.
Any questions or comments by anyone? If not, then mahalo, and thank you for joining.
Lorna?
Yes. Yes, sorry.
We could stop the meeting and stop the recording, but if it's up to you, but we can leave it open for another few minutes if people want to talk to each other at all. Is that okay? Should we stop the recording? Okay.
So we should stop the recording.
Yeah, right? Go ahead and stop the recording. I mean, if people rather just go, that's fine. But if